Is that you, Don?
That's me, Wendell. How you doing? How you doing, Chris?
Hey, what's up, Don?
Happy birthday, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm just on the West Coast, just kind of winding down, and after a long day of not doing much. Harry goes, "What are you doing on your birthday?" I go, "Actually, I was painting the house all day. That's what I did on my birthday." I know it sounds stupid, like you're going out to dinner, going out to movies, having a party. No, I was painting.
Well, I tell you what, you've taken a lot of interest in your, your properties, especially your one there in Santa Fe, and
I have.
doing a lot of fixing up and just making it, putting your personal touch on there.
Yeah, it's the fact that I'm painting means that it's coming to the end. It's $100,000 later. It's almost done, and so I just got to paint and slowly buying furniture and antiques and paintings and blah blah blah, and out there with my chainsaw cutting wood, and it's all groovy. That's all I did. Went out to dinner, and you've been here. You know what the place is, but so I'm just painting the place, make it look new, and then I want to stop because it's driving me freaking crazy. But it's a project, man. Confucius say, "Man finish house, man die." So,
well, let's hope that's not the case. I know you're very proud of that place, and it is quite the show place, especially all the potential that it has. And I'm sure you've done a lot of great things to it since I was there back in November.
Oh yeah, since you've been here, I got all the stained glass windows built. I got stained glass windows everywhere, and it's really looking like a church now. The Church of Dawn.
Well, it's been a while since I've had a chance to chat with you, and you've been really busy this year already with the playing the shows.
It's been crazy, and I'm frustrated because we just it took like 6 months or 7 months to finalize the record deal with Silver Lining Records in Germany. They had got Dora Pesch, Saxon, a bunch of other bands. So we finally signed the deal literally 3 weeks ago. And they, want us to make a record. But as you see, we still have 20 shows on the books. So I'm like, when do we make a record? So my agent called and said, "Oh, I got more shows for you." I have to start pulling the plug and say no. We need like 2 months so John and I can just sit down. I'm not worried about the record because after so many years since Broken Bones, we have such a huge catalog of songs. I mean, we have a ton of songs that are done. We just need to pick the cherries, pick the aces, pick the best ones, and get in the studio and knock them out. But I just need to get off the freaking road, But when you have a money pit, you got to keep playing.
Well, certainly, man. Well, Don, the big news out of the Dokken camp, at least the big public news, I guess, has been Mick stepping away from the band. Talk a little bit about that. Why is he away? Is he gone for good? Is he gone to recharge the batteries? What's happening there?
No, I think he's done. He's retiring, basically. I don't know. It hit me very suddenly. We were actually on tour, I don't know, a month and a half, 2 months ago, and I remember we were at the airport, and we're getting on just yet another frickin' plane flight. We do like 4 or 5 times a week, and he pulled me aside. And he says, "Bro, I can't do it anymore." And I said, "What's the matter?" And he said, "No, I can't do it anymore. I can't do this. I can't keep flying and playing in hotels and playing drums." And I said, "Well, what is it, a money thing, or is it just the travel? We can cut the shows back. We can do like less shows." And he said, "No, I just can't do it, man." And he made a point. He said, "Look, I started playing drums at 10 years old, and I'm 62. He goes, "I'm just worn out." People don't realize, if anybody in the band, guitar player, singer, bass player, singers lose their voice, bass players, whatever, get carpal tunnel. But a drummer, he's got the hardest gig in the band. Mm-hmm. And I told Mick years ago, I told Mick, I said, Mick, you need to take it easy on the drums. You hit too hard. You're like John Bonham. You know, anybody seen Mick knows he beats the hell out of those drums. And I said, Mick, just take it easy and, you know, just hit them softer and don't kill yourself. And he told me, he said, I don't know how to play the drums any other way. I either go out there and I just go for it and pound the drums as hard as I can. That's all I know how to keep my time and keep my chops. I don't know how to play like a jazz drummer. I'm a rock drummer, but, you know, he's had a lot of stuff like torn rotator cuffs, arthritis, your knees, his feet, his elbows. I mean, and we're all going through it. You know, I just got rid of, you know, bursitis, which is this thing where fluid builds up in your elbow, and my elbow was swollen up like a frickin', you know, it was huge. I went to the doctor and I said, what's wrong with my elbow, man? And he goes, well, do you play an instrument? And I said, yeah, I play guitar. He goes, that's from playing guitar. That's just from over-articulating your elbow back and forth playing guitar. And I said, you got to be kidding me, right? So the point is, I quit playing guitar for a month, and it went away. So Mick, you know, he's doing his little Bourbon Ballet. He's got his little solo band, and he goes out when he wants to play just to feel the spiritual rush of playing and having fun with the guys he plays with. And he does a show here in Phoenix or in Arizona and Tucson, and that's what he's doing, man. But he just said, you know, it's time for me. You know, he said, I love you, and we had 40 years together. It's been a great run, and we had some good times, and we went to the top of the mountain, and we sold millions of records and made millions of dollars, but it's time to stop. That's what he said.
Huh. Well,
so it is what it is, you know.
Well, I see you got BJ Zampa back on the drums, which has been a kind of a throwback for you, because obviously Chris and BJ played in House of Lords. Is BJ going to be the permanent guy, or is he just playing with you just, you know, to finish out your dates for the year?
You know, for now, he's in the band. I mean, you know, I don't know what his future holds for him, you know, and he did us a solid because, you know, there it is. Hang on a second. I've been looking for this cricket for an hour. I got that little fucker. Good die, cricket, die. Nothing worse than an annoying cricket, because you don't know where they're coming from. They just keep making that annoying noise. Got him. Just squished him and killed his ass. So, you know, BJ, you know, has played with House of Lords for like 8-9 years. So, same thing. You got Chris and BJ are a rhythm section, and they know each other's feel, and they know each other's time, and it was a little. I will be honest, it was a little shaky the first couple shows he did, but to his defense, I just called him up and said, "Hey, I have a show next week. Can you, do you remember the songs?" We didn't rehearse. We didn't rehearse with him. He just showed up and played, and did the best he could. And he was kind of being the opposite of Mick, I will say. He plays really good. He's really solid. He knows all the parts. He never makes a mistake. He's super on time. It's great meter. But I thought he was a little too chill for Dokken. And I said, BJ, I can't tell you to be something you're not, but I need a Mick Brown. That's what I told him. I need a Mick Brown. I need somebody that's behind me, and they better be bashing the shit out of those drums, because you're the engine, and you need to if that's what you can do, show me, and you can stay in the band.
Well, Don, Bobby Blotzer's available.
Oh my God, really? Are you no way? That would be so awesome. We could probably make it through a half a show. Well, Bobby, you know what? And no offense to Bobby, God bless him, and he did some great drumming on the Rat albums, but he's not a hard hitter. He's not Mick.
Well, nobody really is Mick. I mean, Mick obviously he's Wild Mick Brown. That's why people know him.
Right, he's Wild Mick for a reason. And I told him, just try to take it easy and not beat yourself up so much every night. But he said it really wasn't the drumming, I think, as much as just like you see, look at our tour schedule this year. We've done, 40 shows?
Yeah, you've done a lot of shows.
Oh my God! And we still got another 20 to go. He goes, I'm just burned out, man. I'm just toast. I'm just burned out. I'm tired of being on a plane. He said the plane kicked his ass sometimes worse than playing. But the truth is, when he came to the airport, we were standing there talking, and he said, what did he say? He said he had a scary moment a couple shows before he quit, and he said, I had this out-of-body experience while we were playing. And I felt like I was out of my body watching myself play. And he said, and then I went back and I looked at you and you turned around and looked at me, and he said, and my arms felt like they were lead. I just couldn't lift my arms at the cymbal. I just felt like I weighed 1,000 pounds. And I thought, oh shit, I'm having a heart attack or something. So it really scared him. After the show, he said, that was a really weird experience. But he went to the doctor. He had, full physical. Everything's fine. But he thought he was having a heart attack, I think. And he just said, no, I'm fine. But it kind of just put the fear of God in him, I think. And he just thought, this is not what I want to do, the rest of my life. So you look at his, Facebook. He's riding his Harley and playing in Bourbon Ballet and having fun and enjoying his life. And I don't think any musician would want to play until they just drop dead. Who wants to? I mean, there's music. We can all name a dozen musicians that are in their mid-70s still doing it. But is that what I'm going to be doing? Probably not.
Well, what keeps you going, Don? I mean, you've had a pretty rigorous tour schedule the last couple of years, and every time I see more and more dates popping up here, I'm just like, wow, you and the boys are going at it pretty hard this summer. So what keeps you going? Do you still enjoy it? I mean, obviously, I've hung out with you many, 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 many times, and I enjoy, watching you guys get together and perform out there. Has it become a drudgery at all for you yet?
Yes. How's that for a nice fucking fancy answer? Look, I do say I'm going to own this. And I would say it's 22 hours of hell for 2 hours of glory. Once I'm on that stage, once I put my guitar on and I tune the guitar and John puts his guitar on and I put my guitar on and Chris has got his bass on and we're in the dressing room and the tape's rolling and you hear the people starting to scream and then all of a sudden the adrenaline kicks in and the endorphins and I'm like, let's go out there and kill it, guys. Let's go out there and just kill it. And I do. We go out and we kill it, and we go out, and then the show's over, and then we come off the stage, and then, it's like it's a little different now. The old days in the '80s. I mean, Jeff and Mick and Joe, they're all, they go back to the hotel room and break out a bag of cocaine, but those days are gone. But now it's like we all walk off stage and go back to the dressing room, and we just collapse on the couch. We're exhausted because think about the '80s and the heyday of Dokken. We were in our 30s. We were young, and we were pretty fit. We were skinny. We weren't getting stomachs, and everything was great. I wasn't getting fat. It was like everything was great. But then you hit 60, and all of a sudden, I don't care what you do. It takes its toll. It just takes its toll. But then I look at the Scorpions, and I saw them a few months ago. They were amazing. And, of course, you got Mickey D, but he's a lot younger. He's in his 40s, I think, or maybe 50. And those guys are all over 70, and they're still bringing it. So I could be doing that. We could be a Scorpions and keep going into our 70s. I just don't know what the future holds. This next record, I think, will be a test to see if people care and if the record sells and people, dig the record and keeps us going. But I really, honestly, guys, I wish I could make some fancy, yeah, man, we're going to do it forever. We'll drop dead on stage. I'll be on stage playing, singing, and I will just drop dead. Now, that was more of a Lemmy Kilmister kind of thing. Lemmy always said, I hope that when I die, I'm on stage right in the middle of the song and playing the Ace of Spades and I drop dead, you know?
Yeah, he missed it by 2 weeks.
He missed it by 2 weeks, literally. And I remember, you know, the last week before he died, and I was actually in Copenhagen at Mickey D's house. Mickey D and I were out in the jacuzzi, and he got the call from Lemmy, and I was there, and Lemmy said, "Well, can you fucking believe it? I've been drinking fucking Jack Daniels and fucking doing crystal meth my whole life, and I'm fine." He goes, now I got a fucking brain tumor. That's what he said. He was on speaker. He goes, and I'm going to die from a fucking brain tumor. And I remember that like it was yesterday, because I was there with Mickey, you know, sitting in the jacuzzi, and I said, did he just say he has a brain tumor? But you know, Lemmy said a pretty cool thing. And I remember what he said right before he hung up. He said, "Mickey, fuck it, I had a good run." That's what he said. "Mickey, fuck it, I've had a good run."
Well,
I respect Lemmy for that. He was the epitome of a rock star, you know.
Well, we were actually talking about that at the very beginning of the show, as a matter of fact, about that he walked the walk and talked the talk, as it were, and he was the genuine.
And it wasn't bullshit. And it wasn't bullshit. It was real.
I got that picture still of you and Lemmy and Janie Lane at the Rainbow still.
Oh, I love that picture because we're all smiling. You know, Lemmy's got a great smile on his face, and Janie and me, and we all look happy, and that's a great photo. But
the weird thing is that you're the last man standing out of that.
Yeah, some little fucker, you know, posted once that picture on the internet, and it said, 2 down, 1 to go.
Jesus.
Must be a big fan.
Yeah. What's his name, Dan?
Yeah, who knows? But, you know, it is what it is. But, you know, I'm healthy and I'm happy. And I have to say that being up at Cloudsdale Manor, you know, a mile up a dirt road in the middle of nowhere up in the top of a mountain, and there's nothing around. I'm sitting on 13 acres surrounded by nothingness. You know, I'm just, you know how I am. I'm just in the middle of nowhere. You know, I'm off the grid, man. But it's kind of been healthy for me to get up in the morning, work on the house, paint, cut trees, pull weeds, go out, fix shit. You know, it's a big house to take care of, you know, and it's kind of keeping me healthy. You know, Beverly Hills is kind of a lazy lifestyle, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Well,
yeah, when I'm in Beverly Hills, you know, when I go back to the house there, I get bored. And I find myself drinking too much. You know, I was like, man, I just went through a half a bottle of Jack Daniels, and I better cool it. You know.
Don, I gotta ask, based on what you've just been saying, what is it that's making you keep going right now? You don't need the money necessarily, and you know, no. you could record music yourself, you know, and put it out or not put it out or keep it for yourself, you know. And it sounds like you don't enjoy the whole rigmarole of the road either. So what are you just doing it to appease the fans that are still there, or is there an element of, you know, you don't want to fuck your band guys?
I could say no. I mean, I did used to feel that I had an obligation to the fans, keep putting out records. You know, there's a million bands that put out a record every year, every 2 years. It's been almost 5 for us.
Well, it's been 6.
You know, I just didn't feel 6. Oh, go fuck.
2012.
So was that 1896?
Yeah.
So it's been 6 years that we put a record out. It's been a long time. We got a ton of material, but I actually have 3 records coming out in the next 4 months. I have Solitary, which I did 10 years ago, and I put it out limited. I never really released it, you know, on a record company, my ballad album. I never released it. I never gave it to a record company. I put it out on my, you know, on my website.
Yeah, Chris knows all about that. He went to the post office every day.
It went out on Chris Aiken Records, as I mailed each and every one of them.
That's right. Chris Aiken presents, you know, he was pushing it. And So I took the record. It's been 10 years. And Cleopatra Records said, you know, we'd like to put this out. And I said, well, there's only 9 tracks. And I said, okay, let me see if I can add 3 more tracks to it to make it a real record, 12 songs. So I added 3 new songs to it. So whatever people have that record, the new released version will have 3 bonus tracks. And I just finished up the artwork a couple days ago. It's on Cleopatra Records. It's coming out in the next couple months, and they'll do a campaign, and that's coming out. So I took care of that. And then there was this record that's been floating around on the frickin' internet for 35 years called Back in the Streets, which is a bootleg, illegal, stolen demo tapes of me from 1980. And some guy stole it and has been selling these records for like decades. And I finally said, screw you. These songs belong to me. You've sold like 100,000 copies. You made $1 million. You didn't pay me any publishing, no royalties. These are my songs. Why don't I just put it out? You can't sue me. These songs belong to me. So Silver Lining Records said, if you have 4 more songs from like back in the day, 1978, 1979, 1980, way back. I mean, we're going way back when I was in my 20s. And I said, you know what? I do have those songs. They're just demos, though. They're not like super like state-of-the-art, you know, expensive recordings. And they said, just give us 12 songs or 10 or 11 songs, and we're going to put that record and re-release it, add 4 or 5 new songs, old tracks from the 70s. We're just trying to figure out what to call it. You know, I mean, do we call it Dokken 78 to 81 or Dokken the Lost Tapes or Dokken the Early Days? And that's what I've been going back and forth with labels saying, what do you want to call the record? I don't know. You know, but that's coming out also this summer.
Well, good. Well,
and it was weird, though. I got lucky on that. When I cleaned my garage out 5 months ago, and I was cleaning my storage locker out in my garage, and I found these reels of tape, like 2-inch reels of tape, back in the old days, the 2-inch reels. And I didn't know what they were. I didn't know what the hell they were. And I'm looking at the boxes; they look moldy, and I couldn't understand the writing on the tapes, and there was no track sheets. And so I went and rented a studio, put these tapes up on the machine. You have to bake tapes when they've been sitting for 30 years, or they just disintegrate. So I baked them, transferred them, and I found all these songs that never made it to a Dokken record. And I went, oh, yeah, I remember that song. And I looked at, oh, yeah, I remember that song. Oh, fuck, I remember that song. So I took them all, and I mixed them, and I'm going to put them out with the catalog of Back in the Streets. I think only has six tracks on it, I think. Maybe 7, no, 6 or 7 tracks. So I'm going to add 4 or 5 more songs, and I'm going to put that out this summer. So I got Solitary coming out. I got the retro early days Dokken demos be coming out, and then I'm going to put that to bed in the next month or so. And then I told John, just pick a time, dude, when you don't want to tour, maybe October, and let's just stop for a month and start banging out some new tunes.
Excellent. Well, you got some...
I got material coming out.
Oh, good. I'm glad to hear that. Well, getting back to your live shows, upcoming, you got a couple of acoustic shows that you're, going to be doing?
Yeah, those are going to be interesting with Kip Winger and Jack Russell and...
Eric Martin,
yeah. It's going to be just all of us doing an acoustic show, and it's going to be kind of an adventure because where we're playing is kind of like in the boonies. So I'm going to kind of like make it a vacation. I'm going to fly into Nashville and rent a car and drive 4 hours to the gig, drive to the mountains of the Appalachians to some venue, and Kip does that a lot, I hear. Kip gets in his car and acoustic guitar, and he just drives to gigs and makes it an adventure.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to come down for that show. It's in a little town called Beaver Dam, Kentucky, which is kind of
Kentucky.
kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, I don't think it's even part of the states. You know, I'm pretty sure. The only thing I know about Kentucky, no offense to people in Kentucky, but we always call it, people in Kentucky have summer teeth. You know, and they go, what's that mean? I go, well, some are there and some are not. So, I mean, if you're going to go to medical school and become a dentist, don't open up an office in Kentucky.
Right.
You'll starve.
Well,
nobody's going to come in.
Well, your good friend Greg Napier is in Kentucky, and you've played in Whitesburg a couple of times.
Yeah, and tonight they're doing on his station. Even tonight they're doing a Don Dokken birthday radio show for like 2 hours of just Dokken. So that's very sweet. I love Greg. He's the best. Greg Napier on our station tonight is playing like 2 hours of Dokken.
Well, we play our share here, and I've been getting a lot of texts and emails from people saying, dude, are you going to come out to this show? Are you going to come out to this show or that show? Or, I know you're playing in Ohio and you're playing in Illinois and you're going to be playing.
Yeah, I got 2 in Ohio coming up.
Yeah.
Actually.
And, I've been getting emails because I guess this is Dokken Central here on the Classic Metal Show, because I get these emails from people almost on a weekly basis. I went out to see Dokken and Don came out and signed my stuff and here's a picture, and, so a lot of the fans come out to see you, and they always,
I appreciate them.
They always got to tell me that you were nice to them and signed their stuff and took pictures with them, and
then I kicked them.
and you punched their mother in the face.
Yeah. I remember the girl that I punched her and drug her by the hair across the parking lot, and I kicked her in the balls, and I said, I was like, well, I didn't know you had any balls. But I've had those in my past. But things have changed on that. In the '80s, you could be backstage. Let's say a girl walks backstage. She's got a little mini skirt on and a little low cut top on and cleavage, and she's looking hot. And you could say, "Man, your ass looks great in that skirt," or "Man, you look really sexy," or "You look hot in that thing." You can't say that anymore. The Me Too movement, man. If you say your ass looks great, or you look hot, you look sexy, they'll sue you. It's sexual discrimination. I mean, this whole Me Too movement thing, where you have to be careful. You got to be, if you say something remotely, but they think is sexual, and they say Don Dokken told me I looked hot, or your ass looks great in that skirt, and it damaged me, and I'm emotionally distressed over it. I got to get a lawyer. I mean, you got to be really careful now. It isn't like the '80s. You got to say, you look really nice in that outfit, or you look really great in that outfit. You can't say was like sexy, hot, nice ass. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah,
because you'll get sued. I mean, it's true. You will get frickin' sued. It's like Biden. Biden, man, he touched a girl's ass, He put his hand on her ass, and like 20 years ago, and I'm like, are you kidding me? Or I just saw this thing that black actor, comedian, some girl sued him and said that he groped her in a bar, and they showed that they had a video on it. Luckily, he didn't do shit. He didn't do anything. And I saw the girl who just wanted to sue him, and her ass was the size of a battleship. I mean, why would you want to grope her? How could you not grope her? He probably just put his hand down and hit, 40 pounds of stuff, just caught his cheese for days,
Yeah.
But she was going to sue him. I can't remember his name. It wasn't Jamie Foxx. It was Cuba Jr. Yeah.
Cuba Gooding Jr.
Cuba Jr. He was getting sued. He had to go to the police station, and he had to do a deposition and defend himself. And this woman said, he groped my ass. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So that's the point. He didn't do anything. But this girl's thinking, look, I'll say he did. We don't want to go to court and spend all this money on lawyers. So guess what? Give me $50,000, I'll go away. And those people you got to worry about. You got to be really careful. And God forbid what we did in the 80s. I'm not going down that road.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm supposed to have 16 kids by now. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Well,
you know, I mean, you can't do that anymore.
Well, Don, I'm glad you brought this up, because this is actually something I wanted to talk to you about, because you always have good insight on a lot of these things. And with just what you're talking about people making allegations all the time and losing their livelihood over it, or you know, being castigated or even shunned, you know, because of supposed bad behavior without any proof at all, and
zero proof, and you're guilty until proven innocent. The world has changed. I can't look at Kevin Spacey. Kevin Spacey's career is now ruined. And this guy said he was in a bar. What did he say? I was in a bar, and Kevin Spacey put his hand down my pants for 5 minutes and groped me. And I'm like, did he just say 5 minutes? 5 minutes. If somebody puts their hand down my pants for about 2 seconds, I'm going to say, dude, I don't roll that way. You know, it's not my trip. You know, but apparently he let him, you know, fondle his little nutsack for 5 minutes, and then he went to the police and said, he groped me, I want money. Those kind of people should be put in jail. But he ruined Kevin's career, and he's ruined his reputation, and he's guilty because there's no proof. But I had to laugh. I had to rewind it. I kept saying, did he just say he groped him put his hand down his pants and groped him for 5 minutes? Any of us straight guys, you, Chris, I hope you are straight, right, Chris?
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, I'm just checking, man. I'm not trying to look. If you're gay, I'm totally cool with it. You know?
So at least, if you listen to this show, you would know, as much as I talk about pussy, how ungay I am.
That's true. But if you're in a bar and a celebrity like Kevin Spacey walks up and puts his hand on your leg or whatever, on your leg, and you're not, that's not what you are. You're not bisexual or gay. You'd say, dude, I don't roll that way at the end of it. This guy said he put his hand down his pants for 5 minutes and said nothing, and then he left the bar. I said, you son of a bitch, you. You screw up a great actor, a great person, in my opinion, and now his career is screwed. Nobody wants to touch him. Nobody wants to give him parts because he's supposedly, a molester. Those kind of people, man, this shit's got to stop.
Well, how does it stop? How does it stop?
Everybody,
do people just gotta? Because we always say on the show, Don, that the only way it stops is when people just start saying, you know what, fuck you, I don't care what you say, I don't care what label you put on me, and know, and they go to court and they fight and they beat the case. That seems like that's the only way this will stop. Right,
but then the whole thing is like, you can spend $100,000 a court defending your honor, or you can say, all right, here's $50K, get the fuck out of my life. And that's the whole point. It's like the whole, I guess another woman came out of the woodwork with Trump, and 22 years ago he slammed her against the wall and pulled her panties down. And I'm like, why'd you wait 22 years? And then, and it turned out that she has a book coming out in 2 weeks called Who Needs Men? So don't tell me this is not a publicity stunt, that a woman has a book coming out called Who Needs Men, and goes public and gets on CNN and said, Donald Trump, assaulted me in a dressing room 22 years ago. So she gets $1 million in free press, $1 million. And they kept saying, and she's a writer and she has a book coming out. And when I saw the title of the book, Who Needs Men, I went, oh, you bitch,
And they come to find out that her story that she's telling, the way that she described it, was a Law and Order episode.
Jesus, oh, man, I believe it. But the thing is, I'm not a Trump fan, but, it's like if you want to get publicity, you just say, the President of the United States grabbed your ass and you'll get tons of press. But the point is, you say, how do we stop it, Chris?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, when I'm backstage and girls come back, or I don't know if they're radio people or publicists or from the newspapers, I really am on guard to watch what I say.
Yeah.
Like, don't say anything remotely. I don't care if they're miniskirt and their ass is hanging out. I don't say, I love that miniskirt the way your butt cheeks are hanging out. I'm not going to say that because the world's changed. We got cell phones, we got the internet, we got Instagram, we got Twitter. The world's changed. You know, you got to be careful.
Right.
It's all on film.
And it's interesting, and I noticed this when you were here, whenever it was that I saw you, 3-4 months ago, whatever I think it was. But
Yeah.
when you were here, one noticeable change that I saw from your band specifically was you guys used to, I mean, you guys don't let a lot of people into your backstage area anyway,
No.
but you guys used to just kind of let everybody into the green room or whatever
Sanctuary.
you want to call that. And I noticed this last time you kept everybody out of the green room and you guys came to them until you were
Right.
tired of dealing with them and then went back to the green room but kept everybody out. Is that like because of this kind of stuff?
That's the new thing. You know, back in the day, you know, when Wendell and I were hanging out, you know, in the 80s or 90s, and, you know, the dressing room would be like a huge party going on.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there'd be chicks, people, and I didn't know who these people were. I go off stage, exhausted, and walk into my dressing room, and I'm like, all the booze is gone, all the wine's gone, we ordered a case of beer, that's gone, they ate all my frickin' carrots and dip. That really pissed me off. And I'm like, who are these people?
Right.
But so we had to kind of say, okay, this is it. Nobody's allowed in the dressing room. I don't care who they are. And they say, well, they're from the newspaper or they're from the radio station, KROU, suck my dick. You know, I said, I don't care. I'll talk to you outside the dressing room. You know, because I don't know if there's a setup. And you know, some girl can have her cell phone rolling and come up and start humping on me. You know, which is, gee, that's never happened. Maybe once. You know. And next thing I know, I was humping on her. And she's got a lawyer. And, you know, so I'm very paranoid and very gun shy. So we have new rules. Like you said, there's nobody in the dressing room. It's just the band only and my staff and my crew and my engineer and my road manager. And that's it. And we go out and say hi to them. We take our pictures. We sign autographs. We say, hey, because we've got witnesses that nothing weird's going on. And then we retreat back to our sanctuary.
Well, I want to ask you, Don, you and I kind of text back and forth a little bit about when the Motley Crue movie came out. And, you know, obviously it depicted the quote-unquote debauchery of back in the day and all that other stuff. But now here it is, getting back to your point about the whole Me Too movement. You got Nikki Sixx out there recanting all these quote-unquote stories that were in the dirt, saying that we did this and we did that, and he's like, oh, yeah, you know, I don't remember that really happening. I might have been just mistaken when I said that, and, you know, I don't really think that took place, and, you know, so he's like revisionist history now. All of a sudden, it's just like, oh yeah, well,
is he really?
Yeah, he is.
Shame on you, Nikki, because I was around in the Motley Crue days. Look, our names in the movie. You see the banner. It says Motley Crue Dokken. You know, it's Roxy. You know, we played a show with Motley Crue before they were signed. We did a show together. We were both showcasing for record companies. But I remember back in those days, I thought it was great that they were being honest. Yeah, Vince was in the bathroom 5 minutes before he goes on stage banging a girl. You know, and everybody was doing stuff. And why would Nikki want to recant it? It happened. It's the past.
Yeah, but he's like saying, yeah, well, maybe all those stories in the book weren't true, and I might have been like on heroin or something at that time. So
I was since the old, I'm trying to sensationalize the book, and
he's just trying to cover his ass from Me Too, is what he's doing, because he's corporate.
That's
Nikki
right.
now.
Because now he's pushing 60, you know, and got a wife and probably kids, and he doesn't want this reputation to follow him the rest of his life. But it happened. You know, I can name 10 bands, 10 easy, that are not portrayed as the Motley Crue movie. But I can name 10 bands that I was actually witness to the stuff that Motley claimed to do in that movie that 10 other bands did.
Right.
I'm just not going to talk about it because I'm not throwing anybody under the bus. And some of these bands, they have a very squeaky clean reputation, kind of more of a hard pop rock bands. They were just as bad as Motley, but
Sure.
they just didn't own it. They just didn't own it.
Well, Motley used it as part of their image. That was, you know, they were the bad boys. That was their image as much as everything else. But everybody else wanted to do the same shit, so of course they were doing it. They just didn't promote it in Hit Parader or whatever.
Correct. I remember, you know, going to Guns N' Roses' apartment above the whiskey and walking into a party after Guns played. And I remember it had a door and it had a giant plate glass window. And the door was closed, but the plate glass window had been broken out, so people were just stepping through the glass through the plate glass window. And I remember it was just out of control. Guns, those guys it was just like everybody leave the whiskey and go to Guns' apartment and try to squeeze in 100 people into a 2-bedroom apartment. And it was just insane. And I remember poor Izzy, I shouldn't talk about it, but, you know, Izzy was the guy that kind of wanted nothing to do with it.
Right.
The time I went there, because, you know, Alan Niven was Guns N' Roses manager, and Alan Niven was once my roommate. So I was around when Alan became their manager, and Alan says, "Oh, Don, I want to meet this new band called Guns N' Roses, and we got to go up after the show and say hi to everybody." And I remember going to the apartment, and I'm like, "Where's Izzy?" And there was a walk-in closet in the apartment, and that was Izzy's bedroom. He had like a bed in the walk-in closet with a lock on the inside of the door. I'll never forget that. Alan walked up and banged on the door. Izzy opened it up, and I remember there's a bed on the floor. There's clothes hanging up on the clothes racks. He had like some stuff in there and a little place to put his clothes. And that was his way to escape the madness, you know, because everybody else was terrorizing. And poor Izzy was like, you know, I'm going to go climb into my walk-in closet and lock the fucking door, and hopefully it'll all be over by morning. And he might deny that, and I'm not going to defend it, but that was my memory, and I got a pretty good memory.
Yeah.
But everybody else was just terrorizing. And when I went to Motley's parties, it was insane. It was crazy. There was just girls everywhere, butt naked. Everybody was screwing everybody. And the drugs are drugs. But you know, it happened. We don't have to be proud of it. I'm not proud of what I did in the 80s. Trust me. I have many, many, many regrets at this time in my life. Today's my birthday, 66 years old, and I'm looking back what I did in my 20s and 30s going, shame on me. Shame, shame, shame on you, Don. I did some bad stuff. And thank God, I keep waiting. I literally, every like 6 months to a year, I keep waiting for those videos to show up on YouTube. Because, you know, we had the Back of the Bus Productions, and we had 2 hidden video cameras stuck up in where the speakers are supposed to go, and we took the speakers out and put cameras in the back of the bus.
Boy.
And we would film what was going on in the back of the bus. And we had hours and hours of girls come on the bus, and that's as far as I'm going to go.
And read poetry.
And I remember at the end of the tour, I thought, this shit is going to come back to haunt me. And you know what? Jeff and George and Mick, they should all say thank you, Don, for destroying those tapes, because they're all guilty. I could have kept those tapes of Jeff and Mick and George and me. You know, I remember once the back of the bus, it was Jeff and me with 2 beautiful blondes. And, you know, he was in one couch and I was on the other, and let the good times roll, you know. But if you ask those guys now, they'd say it never happened. Because they have a wife, and they have a kid, and they have a daughter, and who wants to admit they were doing that?
Right.
And if Mickey's recanting, he's probably recanting because he's older and he doesn't want that stigma. I mean, the whole heroin thing is, he doesn't recant that. He did shoot heroin, he did OD, he did die, and went back and did it again. I mean, that's just the one story you can't deny. But I get it. We're getting older, and nobody wants to be remembered as a dirty, filthy, sleazy horn dog.
Well, it was just an era, Don. Well,
it was an era.
Well, I want to ask you, and I don't know if you've been keeping up with it because I know you've had a pretty busy schedule this year and you're pretty engrossed with your house and everything. Are you familiar with this wave of censorship going on, especially like on the video platforms of content creators, independent content creators who, more or less are commentators on, say, social things that are going on or in the news or political or whatever, and they're being censored. Their videos are being censored or taken down or demonetized and all these other things. Are you aware of all that?
Well, I'm aware of it, but I mean, if they're talking about neo-Nazi fascist, stuff like that, I'd pull it off too.
Well, no, I'm not talking about that. I'm not talking about white supremacist stuff. I'm just talking about being a commentator on whatever current events or issues are going on.
But I don't know. The question is, who is monitoring it and who has the power to pull it?
Well, if you want to talk about like YouTube, for example, they're owned by Google, obviously. Well, they're coming up with more and more software, that artificial intelligence that can actually scan a video just looking for any words, just specific words that they're looking for. And if you
really?
And if it falls within the guideline where they used a specific word, they'll pull your video down because you used a word that they deem offensive.
Well, then we're back to the George Orwell movie 1986 or 1984, whatever it's called. Big Brother, the movie, that George Orwell did about Big Brother, which is a great, iconic movie of all time about everybody knows. Nobody can do anything without anybody knowing. It happened. But I pull videos. When I see a video of a guy with an iPhone and he's recording us live, it's completely distorted. The sound sounds like crap. The camera's moving all over the place, and they post it on YouTube, and then people comment and go, "Man, those guys really sucked." I'm like, really? That's your take on the iPhone distorted sound video of a guy holding it above his head? Really? So I have the power to go on what they call an executiveship. I can go on YouTube and say, I'm pulling that video, I'm pulling that video, I'm pulling that video, and I always send them an email and say, you got 24 hours to pull that video. And if you don't pull it, I'm pulling it because it's copyright infringement. They have no rights to my music. They have no rights to my live performances. They have no rights to my face. They have no right to post my music or my performances live on YouTube. They have no right, zero. And they don't understand that. So I pull it. And of course, then I get the hate mail. But I don't give a shit.
Well, as you should, but what I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is that we're reverting back to the 80s during that PMRC time when it's just like, well, that's offensive. Well, that's offensive. Well, we need to ban that because that's offensive. No,
it's gone back farther than that, Wendell. This isn't about the 80s, I don't think. This is about the 30s and the 40s. I mean, anybody that's a fan of movie lore and movies, if you look at old movies in the 30s, you would see women in a scene with a sheer top and no bra. You could see their nipples sticking through the top in a major motion picture. You could see their boobs. You could see their breasts. You could see all this stuff. And that's when the movie studios, said, we're clamping down and we're going to tell you what you can put in the movie and what you can't put in the movie. And it's kind of like the Ozzie and Harriet thing. You know, Ozzy and Harriet and Leave It to Beaver, whenever they showed them going to bed, they slept in separate beds. And they got their flannel pajamas on. Really? Is that how America was in the 50s? They wore flannel pajamas and slept in two single beds next to each other. It's such a joke. But that's what the censors said. You can't have Ozzy and Harriet sleeping in the same bed together. Or Lucy or anybody. You never look at I Love Lucy. They slept in separate beds. Ozzy and Harriet, separate beds. You know, that's because the censors came in and said you can't show a husband and wife sleeping in the same bed because that's not correct. That's not religious. That's not spiritually correct. And we're not going to allow you to do that in a show. So, and then it kind of loosened up in the 60s in the hippie movement and all that stuff. And then the movies kind of got a little more racy and, you know, and movies like Shampoo where they're having threesomes and all this stuff. But then now it's all gone, the 80s, fuck the 80s. This was going on in the 40s and 50s. And then we loosened up the reins, and now it came back. The PMRC, you know, we did that video of the Hunter. We're just being chased by the PMRC.
Right.
You know, to basically say screw you to this woman Tipper Gore. I look at Tipper Gore. Just the haircut said volumes. You know, I mean, you remember her haircut with curled under and a bob, and she had her little curlers on, and for her, and the thing is, it backfired on her, right? Tipper Gore went after Two Live Crew because it was a cop killer.
No,
it was
body count.
Body count.
Yeah.
But she had it stickered.
Yeah, she had that stickered. Exactly right.
And it sold 1 million copies.
Mm-hmm. Oh, the stickers in the 80s. The stickers in the 80s were a sales ploy. At that point, y'all wanted your records to be stickered.
Yeah, and when it says parental advisory, you know, could contain, you know, lewd and insidious lyrics, you know, she's so stupid, and her other five little Bible thumpers in her group that she didn't realize she helped those records quintuple their sales. What kid doesn't want to go out and buy a record that says, don't buy this record?
Exactly.